So if, like me, you're in the UK and you like low CG crawlers, but you don't necessarily like spending a small fortune getting them shipped from the other side of the world, maybe this is the answer. Let's have a look at the GCRC Caiman carbon fibre chassis rails. Stay tuned. Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today, like I say, we're going to be looking at the GCRC Caiman carbon fibre chassis rails, or chassis kit. I've been really getting back into my low CG belly dragger crawler type stuff recently. The technical crawling, now the summer's coming, well, spring at least, over here in the UK. The weather's getting a bit better, the rocks are drying up, so it's time to get the belly dragger out. So I've been making some improvements on my G-Speed rig, and I'm really pleased with how that's gone so far. I will do another video on that very shortly, because I have made a few changes since last time. But I recently came to the decision that I wanted to build another low CG belly dragger build. I started to look at the G-Speed, because they've got a V4 now, and they've also got a kind of forward skid version as well. So there's a couple of new versions of the G-Speed out at the minute. But the problem with the G-Speed stuff is it's very hard to get hold of in the... Well, it's not hard to get hold of in the UK. It's quite easy, but it's a bit costly to get hold of in the UK. However, I started to have a look around and see what others were on the market, and again, most of them are in the US, apart from the one we're looking at today. So GCRC, for those of you who don't know, is a UK company. It's run by Gareth and Gina, I think, Curtis, who, and you know, I've bought a few bits and pieces from them now. They do a lot of trail stuff in the UK. They also cover Home's Hobbies and something else that I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but lots of stuff. So they've got a lot of stuff for the kind of, you know, real custom build market, which is great. I had a look at this Cayman chassis and I thought, that looks really cool. I'm going to give that a try. So here we go today. I'm going to have a quick overview, or a quick review if you like, of what I think of it so far. Now I've literally got it out of the packaging, partially put it together just for the purposes of this video really, and just to see what I think initially of the quality and what have you. So I'm going to do my new kind of scoring method, just run through, give it a quick score out of 5, and that's basically going to be a comparison to my G-Speed one. As I say, when I do these scores, I'm only going to be scoring those based on the experience I have with other things. And in this market, the only thing I have any direct experience with is my G-Speed V3 chassis. So that's basically what I'm using as my point of comparison. And I think that's a pretty good point of comparison. The G-Speed is kind of probably the most popular low LCG kind of chassis rails on the market. They're certainly the ones you see the most of. So I think this is a good comparison to make it with. So first of all, let's do just a quick overview. Here it is. This is the G-Speed. That's a bit of a Freudian slip. This is the GCRC Caiman chassis. So it's a carbon fibre chassis rails. Comes in 3 different colours, as far as I can tell: black, purple and green. I went for the purple ones because they were the cheapest and they were in stock. We'll get into the quality of the carbon fibre a little bit later, but from a colour point of view, it looks really nice. This is supposed to be purple, kind of a bit pinky coloured, but I don't mind. Yeah, it looks good. I think it looks nice. The skid plate and sliders are 3D printed. And you can also buy kind of 3D printed bumpers, some body mounting kits as well. Although some of that is from a third party, which is from a company called RRC Customs. And I think they do some of the carbon fibre cutting as well for this. So I don't know if they cut the chassis particularly, but certainly some of the accessories come from them. It is a 70mm wide skid. The spaces that it comes with are 70mm wide as well, so there's no pinch on the chassis rails, which you do sometimes get with these LCG builds to add a bit of stability, but to be honest, I mean, there's not a lot of flex in that at all. It's good thick carbon fibre, so I don't think that's going to be a problem, that's not nipped in at all. You can get a wider version for the sort of Traxxas transmission, and it's compatible with the Traxxas transmission and skids and things like that. This one obviously is designed for this sort of Element axial kind of transmission mounting holes. The skid is an 8 degree skid. So it's 8 degrees from flat or from horizontal. So that'll really help with the breakover. Is it too much? I don't think it is. I think we'll see that when we build it out, but I think that's going to be okay. In fact, I'm sure it is, you know, having seen some of the performance of these online. So there we go, that's the basics. It does come as a kind of bundle. So choose your bits separately. So you pick your rails, pick your skid, pick your sliders, although there's only one option for the sliders, spacers, bumpers, that kind of thing. And it all comes into a sort of bundle, which you then get a discount if you buy it as a bundle. So that's good, and we'll get into that when we get into the cost section. Okay, so let's get into the scoring. So first category is looks. Now looks is a bit of a weird one for a chassis like this, so I'm going to kind of do it as design more than looks. But you know, on the looks front, I mean, you can see why they call it the Cayman. It looks like a little Cayman at the front there, which I think is quite cute. Nice colours. The colour options are good. It's a nice bright green, nice sort of bright pinky purple. Black's black, right? So in terms of the design itself, I like that there's lots of shock options. The front ones are sort of fairly traditional horizontal rows. The rear ones are this kind of diamond pattern, which might make it quite awkward to use those to mount, to create body mounts from. So we'll see. My intention is to put a cliffhanger body on this, a Proline cliffhanger body. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to mount that, but I'll figure that out. That's part of the challenge, part of the fun. The 3D printed parts are pretty clever. I really like those. So, the skid plate is, certainly the link mounts are quite narrow front to back. There's not a lot of space there, which does kind of space them out quite away from the top link mounts here and here. So I'm planning to transplant the sort of guts of my Element Ecto onto this for reasons. Well, I've effectively got 2 Ectos or 2 gatekeepers, or one that I can just interchange the body. They're basically the same truck. It seems a shame to have them both sitting there doing nothing. I might as well have one of them just sitting there doing nothing and swap the bodies over as I want to. So the guts of the Ecto, or the internals of the Ecto, are going into this. Because of that spacing between the lower link mounting points and the upper link mounting points on the chassis, I'm probably going to need to mess about with top link lengths and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be a straight transfer, but we'll worry about that later. That's part of the fun of the build. But the 3D printed parts are really quite clever. They're nicely designed. I like that there's little kind of notched out pieces. You perhaps can't see them. Let's just get that nice and close. There's these sort of little notched out pieces here, so that it doesn't hamper or limit the number of or the options at the front there. Because as you can see, the front upper link mounts, there's about 7 or 8 of those, and at least 3 or 4, maybe more, would be below the level of the slider, so that would get in the way. But they've thought about that and notched those out really nicely, so that works quite well. Similarly at the back. And the other thing that they've done, with the 8-degree skid angle, that could cause a fairly acute drive angle for the drive shafts to go through, particularly at the rear, where the rear of the transmission would be sort of up a little bit. So you'd get some quite acute angles. However, they've thought of that, and there's a sort of raised section in the middle for the transmission to mount to, which again is horizontal, so it sort of counteracts that 8-degree skid mount. So that's really clever too. Very simple but clever ideas. Also, I quite like that one of the sliders comes with a kind of battery strap slot in there, so that you can put the battery strap in. The battery strap comes with it. Slots in there really nicely, mount the battery on there, job's a good one. And it is just the right size for the batteries I'm using at the minute, which are these G&B kind of 1550, or I've got some 1350 3S batteries. They just fit on there really well, and just tuck in nicely, and that's going to be a good bit of weight, nice and low, or as low as it's likely to ever get. So yeah, pleased with that, and that will counteract the weight of the motor, which will, I think, sit on this side if memory serves me correctly. So there's probably not much else to talk about design. Like I say, the 3D printed skid and sliders are separate. They don't come as a kit, but you can buy them all as a bundle on the GCRC website, and if you do that, you get a sort of bundle discount, bundle rate, providing you buy in total 5 items. I think that's a good idea. It gives you the option. It means they don't have to list loads of different bundled items on the website, so it keeps the administrative overhead down. But you obviously then get lots of options and lots of different things that you can mix and match. So that's really good. So in total, for looks/design in this case, I'm giving it 5 stars. I've got no reason not to. I really like the design. It feels less clunky than the G-Speed one. The G-Speed V3 kind of felt, I don't know, it felt pretty basic. It certainly looks pretty basic. Now, I'm not saying that it is by any means. I'm certain there's been a lot of testing and trial and error of where the links mount and all of that kind of stuff. So from a geometry perspective, I'm sure it's really good. But it just looks a bit meh. And this one, I think, in comparison, looks great. So it's going to get 5 stars. I've got no reason to mark it down. So next is build and or quality. So in this case, I'm going to be focusing on the quality again, because it isn't built. It isn't on a build yet. And I think that, the build element is going to be for sort of RTR stuff. But in this case, quality, I think, is a good measure. And again, it's really good. So I've been around carbon fibre, CNC'd carbon fibre for a long time with the drone, FPV drone racing scene that I've been involved with for quite a while. And so I've had a lot of good quality and bad quality carbon fibre pass through my hands. Plenty of cheap Chinese stuff that's been cut with a cheese knife, and also plenty of really good quality stuff that's been cut with really nice sharp CNC bits. That's clearly the case with this one. The cutting is spotless. There's no delaminations. There's no kind of splintering anywhere. And of course, that's what you want with carbon fibre. You don't want little bits of sharp carbon fibre sticking off, getting stuck in your fingers, because I promise you now, that's not a comfortable experience. Really pleased with the quality of the carbon fibre. And it's good and thick as well. I think it's 3mm thick. I'll check it with some calipers and put something on the screen. So it's good quality carbon fibre. There's not a lot of flex and twist in it. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Doesn't come with any hardware. So even if you buy the bundle, you don't get a single screw, or at least I don't think you do. I haven't seen any in any of that packaging. Now that's kind of fine to the extent of you sort of expect that. You expect to use your own kit. I'll put a link in the description to the selection of these stainless steel screws that I use, which are serving me really well so far. They haven't rusted on any of my rigs, haven't stripped the heads out on any of them or anything like that. But I think, when you're making a bundle, or when you're giving people the option of a bundle, I think it would be nice to include the hardware, particularly for mounting things like the skid and the sliders, because they are 3D printed. I don't want to be screwed in and out of there time and time again, because eventually that will just strip out the 3D prints, right? For now, they're biting in quite nicely, but I don't want to do a load of trial and error in terms of the screw sizes and whether I'm getting the right ones. So I think that's a little bit frustrating, and I would have liked to have seen a hardware pack with it. It's a minor gripe, but it wouldn't cost a huge amount. It would only add maybe 50p or £1 to the cost of the whole thing. And I think that would be a worthwhile inclusion, and just make you feel like you're buying more of a sort of well thought out product. So there's carbon spacers that you buy as part of the bundle. They're really good. I love the quality on those. They have this sort of brass, I assume they're brass inserts, threaded inserts. So really like those. And they're from RRC Customs again, in conjunction with GCRC. I actually bought 2 packs of those as part of my bundle, and then I'm going to use the 4 on the chassis. These 2 are aluminium that I happen to have. So I'm going to use 4 on the chassis, and then probably 1 or 2 to make a bumper for the front with some 3D printed sides and the carbon fibre spacers. So that, hopefully that'll be quite cool. The 3D prints. Okay, so I 3D print a lot of stuff. I 3D print a lot of stuff for my drones, a lot of stuff for my trucks, and I've got my printer dialed in pretty well, but it's never been as dialed in as well as whatever's printing these. These are really lovely quality 3D prints. I'm very, very impressed with those. They're absolutely spot on. It's difficult to show how good they are on camera, but they are absolutely cracking. Whoever set this printer up, please come around to my house and set mine up, because it is spot on. Now I don't know what they are. I think I think this might be carbon infused PLA or PLA plus. It's definitely, quite, it might even be nylon, I'm not sure, but it's a very rigid plastic. Now that might be detrimental in really cold weather. That might make that a bit brittle. I'm not worried about the skid plate. I think that's solid, and in those rails that's not going to break. The sliders might take a bit of a beating though, so we'll see how they get on. And they do feel like they're not 100% infill. There's some air in there, so we'll see, but hopefully that's all good. But generally those 3D prints are fantastic quality. Really impressed. So it comes with a battery strap if you buy the sliders, and there's a slot in the slider for the battery strap, but the battery strap that they provide you is junk. Well, I say it's junk. It might last perfectly well, but it's just a cheap, poor quality one. I think that would have been nicer if that was like a rubberized one to stop me having to put something on the slider itself to stop the battery sliding out. It's not a massive problem, really. I've got plenty of battery straps that are rubberized. I'll use one of those, but it would have just been nice. So it's good that you get one, but it would have been nice if it was a slightly better quality. And that's it for build and quality. And I think I am going to give that, I can't quite give it 5 stars. It's got to be 4, I'm afraid. I think the lack of hardware, the sort of cheap battery strap, feel like just slight own goals. For the sake of an extra few pence, that could have been a much nicer experience, I think. Well, much nicer, maybe not much nicer, maybe that's overcooking it, but a nicer experience. Okay, and the last specific section is cost or value. Value for money or cost. This is an interesting one, I think, because it's pretty good value. So again, like I say, I'm comparing this to the G-Speed. So the rails, the purple rails, which obviously are not very popular, were only £75. So that's a really good price. The black ones and the green ones are £90, I think. That's still a really good price. That's very comparable with a set of G-Speed rails, and that's before you even tried to ship them to the UK. So can't fault the price of the carbon. It is a little frustrating that the 3D print parts are all extras, and are all kind of 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 pounds each. So you soon notch up some cost. So the skid, the sliders, the front bumpers, the spacers, all of those you have to buy separately. However, you can buy them in a bundle. If you bought them all separately, you'd be well over £200 easily, I think. So at that point, it's getting quite expensive. You're beyond the price of the G-Speed then, even shipped to the UK. But what GCRC do, is when you buy a bundle of 5 items, so rails plus a skid plus sliders plus maybe some spacers and a bumper, they give you some options of what those 5 items are. If you buy those as a bundle, you get a big discount. I can't remember exactly how much it is. It's something like 15 or 20% off. So it brings the cost right back down again, and it's definitely worthwhile doing then. My rails, 2 lots of spacers, which is 8 spacers in total, the sliders and the skid plate, was about £150, which is pretty good. And it was free shipping to the UK, which is even better. So I think on that basis, 5 stars. Really pleased. It's a good price. Can't complain about that. And the fact that it's a UK supplier, for me, being in the UK, is great. Keeps the cost down. And it actually meant that I was happy and excited to buy it. And of course it arrived pretty much next day, which is the other nice thing of it being in country in the first place. Obviously, if you're watching this and you're in the States or you're in Europe, that's gonna be different if you want to try and get one of these. I'm not even sure whether you can get them in those countries. I would assume that they would ship them over there, but I don't know for certain. But hey, for a UK driver, perfect. 5 stars, can't fault it. So that's it. Overall score. So it scored a 5, a 5 and a 4, so that means it's 4.6 out of 5 on average, which is very close to the highest it's ever going to score. I'm not going to score it on performance. Basically, I can't, because it hasn't been built yet, so I don't know how it will perform. And I think it would probably be unfair to score it on performance because there's so many other factors involved here. It is only the chassis part. All of the other elements that go with it, means it would be very difficult to call out whether this chassis itself is good. Unless, you know, I build it up and it crawls worse than the Gatekeeper ever did or the Ecto ever did, in which case then, you know, I'm going to blame all the geometry, but even then there's loads of options for me to play with to try and sort that out. So I think I'm going to have a lot of fun building this up and tuning it and getting it how I want it. Could they have made any improvements on it? Probably not. I don't think so. The chassis itself, you know, I think it's great. Like I say, the quality is fabulous. The 3D printed quality is fabulous. They could have included a better quality battery strap, and they definitely could have included some hardware. But I think that's it. I think other than that, it's absolutely brilliant. Really love it so far. Really excited to get it built. And I'm going to make a start on that this weekend, basically. So hopefully that's a helpful video. If anybody's looking at a Cayman chassis to make their own LCG build and you're in the UK particularly, but not exclusively, definitely check out this as an option. I don't think you can go far wrong with it, assuming that it's not an absolute howler when it gets out on the rocks, which I'm sure it isn't, because I've seen plenty of video of these things running around and they are very capable, so I'm not worried about that at all. So heartily recommend it from a quality and cost perspective. Really looking forward to building it. Hopefully you will be able to join us for that journey, but if you found the video helpful and useful, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, hit the subscription option, hit the notification bell, all of those good things. We will be back very soon with a video to transfer from the Ecto to the Cayman chassis. I can't wait to get on with that. So we'll see you on the next one.